2020. Thank you for coming to this session that is Breakout Room 5. So we're all concerned about the theme revitalizing the role of English language teaching, literature and translation in the revolution industry 4.0 era. As a panel moderator, my name is Pastor Kalisa and I'll be guiding us through this panel presentation. Well, actually, we have a short period of time, so we have 1 hour, but in the schedule, we only have two presenters here, so it means that we only have 30 minutes for this session. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to divide this session into two. So first session will be paper presentation. So every presenter has only 10 minutes to present their paper, and then followed by the second presenter and so on. And then the end, we will have Q&A sessions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the panel session. I'd like to invite the first presenter, that is Miss Maritama Dinda Angraita. She's going to talk about Saussurian binary opposition as a means of social critics as described in Pramudia Anantatur's novel, This Earth of Mankind. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Maritama.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Pascha. I will start my presentation. Okay. Can you see my slide here?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. What about this?
Yes, got it.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So today I will present about my paper. The title is Saussurian Binary Opposition as a Means of Social Critics as described in Pramodia Anandatur's novel, This Earth of Mankind. So I divided this presentation into 5 parts. The first one is introduction, the second is theoretical framework, third is methodology, and fourth is result and discussion, and fifth is conclusion. And then we go to the introduction. The story of this earth of mankind serves two different cultures and two different mindsets in one beautiful novel. This novel tells about Indonesian culture and Dutch colonialism era work side by side. A novel is part of literary works. A novel make the reader imagines their own interpretation of a text. The interpretation can reveal some implicit elements that exist in the novel. And This Earth of Mankind presents the story about the post-colonial era in Indonesia that shows many social issues such as colonialism and violence toward women. The binary opposition that exists in this novel is very complex. It is not only physically but also spiritually, and the conflict is packaged so amazingly in each character by the writer. So this paper aims to analyze and explain the phenomenon of social issues through binary opposition that was revealed in the novel to construct the social criticism described in the novel. And then the second is theoretical framework. The first one is Saussurian structuralism. Structuralist assumes that all of the phenomena in this world belongs to some structural system. Whether we are conscious or not, we live in that system. The system is made unconsciously by social behavior and then becomes a norm, whether written or not. The system is used in such areas such as economics, education, science, and social life in general. And then the structuralism doesn't look for causes or origins of language or any other phenomenon. It looks for the rules that underlie language and govern how it's function. It looks for the structure. And then the second one is binary opposition. Binary opposition becomes the most important component in structuralism. The human mind can feel eagerly in terms of opposites. Binary opposition is two ideas which directly opposed, each of which we understand by means of its opposition to the other. For the example, if we understand that female is opposite of male, good as the opposite of evil, and so on. It is not only opposites, but also relates one and another. And then the third is methodology. This analysis uses a close examination of the character behavior, was carried out in the previous critical studies, were also used to support and provide a valid analytical perspective. The analysis of the character behavior was used Saussure binary opposition. And the fourth is result and discussion. The binary opposition that revolved first one is good and evil. So the good and evil is the binary opposition that most appear in the universe. Most of literary works always have the binary opposition of good and evil. The good and evil is also found in this novel. The existence of the good and evil construct the plot made by the author, usually in stories that end happily. The evil is defeated by the good, but in this novel, could be unusual because the story ends with a victory for the evil. There are some characters that portray the good. For the first one is Minke. He is a native aristocrat who attends European school. And then Annalise, she is a half-blood who loves natives very much. She is always proud of native blood from her mother. And then Nyai Antosoro is a concubine of Herman Melema. And then Herman Melema is a pure-blood who taught Nyai about Dutch trade, dealing with banks, lawyer, and so on. And then he is a Nyai Antosoro guard who is loyal, trusted, and obedient to look after Nyai Antosoro family and workers. And then Dr. Martinet is Nyai Antosoro doctor from Dutch. He is a pure blood who never acts superior to natives. And then the two others is Magda Peters. She is a literature teacher at HBS. She defines Minka from his problem with society and Europe, and also raised her career as a teacher at HBS. And then the Delacroix family is a pure blood too, which sent a letter as a sign of their sympathy for the problems that have befallen to Nyai Antosoro and Minka's family. And then the evil portrayed by three characters. The first one is Sastro Tomo. She is a Sanicum father who sold Sanicum to Herman Melema when she was 14 years old. So he can get promotion to cashier. And then Robert Melema, he is a son of relationship between Nyai Ontosoro and Herman Melema. The Robert Melema evil's behavior is the result of the disharmony relationship between his parents. And then Robert Surhoff, his evil behavior grown up because of his jealousy toward the Minkus and Annalise relationship. And then the second binary opposition that revolt is superior and inferior. The superior portrayed by the Dutch, pure bloods and half bloods. And then the inferior is portrayed by native. With the Dutch post-colonialism atmosphere in the Indies, the novel is very thick with colonialism. The existence of superior and inferior make the existence of social class. In the novels, people of the Indies are divided into three groups. There are pure blood, half blood, and natives. And then the next binary opposition that revolt is educated and uneducated. The acculturation of Dutch and Javanese culture make only native with aristocratic blood who could go to schools such as Minke. Moreover, regular native, such as Nyai Ontosoro or other natives, are not allowed to attend school just to learn to read, write, or count. But even though that Nyai Ontosoro never went to school, but she proves that woman is able to speak in Dutch language, can read, can write, can count, and speak polite words. And then next is men and women. Native not only colonized by Netherlands or Dutch, but also colonized by their own people. Men have a very dominating role. A woman considered weaker than men and not given the same rights for life. The stereotype that have been attached to this society seems to make women's effort to get equal rights is impossible. Whatever women do, their class will remain below men. But because here Pramudia described that it is no longer the time for women to be treated unfairly. Women are also entitled to the same rights as men in all matters because they are able to do the work that should be done by men. And then,
Sorry, Miss Dinda.
yes, ma'am.
Left.
Okay.
2 minutes left.
The binary opposition that construct this social criticism is humans are gifted with the most perfect minds, thoughts, and feelings. With that, humans should be able to fight against oppression and discrimination against fellow humans. The operation carried out by Europeans as the upper class who considered native people as the lower class, even in their own land in this land. The resistance carried out by the native is described by the figure of Nyai Ontosoro. She tried her best as a woman, native Nyai, as a form of resistance against their own master, against colonization of their own people. She is able to prove that native woman is capable of being extraordinary. In addition, Ninka is a representation of a native who can match European greatness through his achievement in school, his ability to trade, as well as his writing published in newspapers that are recognized by natives and Europeans. And then the last one is conclusion. The binary opposition as a means of social critique in this art of mankind is successfully revealing toward the character's behavior. Binary opposition. They are good and evil, superior and inferior, educated and educated, and men and women. The binary opposition in this art of mankind shows that existence of colonialism and women discrimination is very strong represented in the novel. The life that is reflected in this novel is quite a social criticism for the native themselves. As humans, we should give other human equal rights and opportunities. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Marikama, for sharing about
Yes,
the
ma'am.
social critics, in Pramudia Anantathur's novel. It's really interesting to, see the findings. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we move to the next presenter, for those who wish to ask a question, please leave your question in the chat box. Yeah, or you will wait for the question and answer session at the end of this session. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it is an honor for me to invite the second presenter, that is Mr. Ahmad Abu Rifai, for sharing the power relation in Sundanese myth reflected in Kurniawan's main tiger. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Abu.
Okay, okay. Can you hear my voice, ma'am?
Yes, very good.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we are doing best today. And so today I'm going to talk about myth. My paper speaks about the power relation in Sundanese myth reflected in Kurniawan's main tiger. So I've analyzed this novel using Levi-Strauss structuralism. Okay, First of all, I want to ask you some basic questions. Have you ever heard about um, Yororo Kidul, about giants living in a big and ancient tree around your villages? And probably have you ever also heard about giants that will come to your house if you uh, do not enter your house when Maghrib comes? So actually, they all are myth. So uh, we basically can say that myths are stories about the relationship between genius, between creatures, supernatural creatures, between nature and of course humans. And the relationship is bounded into a whole, and sometimes it is in the framework of magical or supernatural events. Okay. According to the Majid, myth is just like a painting. It explains more than word. So Majid defines myth like a painting because myth is actually not only what can be seen in the surface. So probably on the surface, it's just like some tales that told to children probably before they sleep, but actually it's not. So uh, uh, through it, we can see what is actually the unseen. So in structuralism, probably it's called as the deep structure. So we know the deep structure, the hidden structure. So basically, uh, commonly it's about the concepts of life. So this myth alludes to broader concepts and values of life. It aims to deliver values to create particular relationships with other humans or nature, and eventually to build identity. So, in pre-industrial societies, myths form perhaps the most important available model of interaction, since no separate philosophical system uh, of inquiry exists. So this this ensures that myth is actually not only story told to the people to entertain them, but myth is also can also be seen as the concepts of life. So myth has structure. Okay, myth is an essential part in Indonesian civilization. The diversity that exists in Indonesia accommodates the emergence of various myths that are believed in society according to the background. So it's so difficult to deny that we in Indonesia have a lot of myths because Indonesia is a country which is established from so many communities, so many regions here, and each region has their own myth. Okay, for example, the Sundanese people have a very well-known myth, namely the white tiger or Maung. So it is told from generation to generation that tiger is the symbol of power, is the symbol of noble, is the symbol of compassion, because this is related to the history of Sunda. Uh, in the past, there was King Siliwangi, the king of Kingdom Siliwangi. So at the end of his life, he ran away to the forest because he avoided to have a war with some of his descendants. So he ran away to the forest in purpose, and eventually he transformed into a tiger. So since that incident, tiger becomes a symbol, a great symbol of Sunda. Okay, so I've analyzed the novel entitled Mentiger by Eka Kurniawan. This is actually a famous novel from Indonesian author because it's widely known in the world. So there are two questions here. How is the implementation of myth in the novel? How is the power relation in Sundanese myth reflected in the novel? Okay, so Here I'm using a binary opposition between traditional society and urban society. So there are differences which are so crystal clear. Traditional society strongly believes in myth, and then they consider tigers owners as heroes, and tigers owners get high position due to their power. And this is different with urban society. Urban society doesn't really believe in myth, and no heroes of myth and no high position for tigers owners because they basically don't know about the myth. Okay, this um, traditional and urban society are represented by Margio's movement. Margio is the central character in this novel, so he is a strong man who inherits the tiger spirit inside his body. So in the past, he lived in a village which is located in a close place, and it is surrounded by forests, surrounded by big trees, and people there live together with some beliefs about supernatural or magical creatures. And then he moved to a new village, and that village represents the urban society. Okay, so time bring changes to so many conditions. If the traditional people believe myth, the urban ones don't. When the traditional people listen to the supernatural stories and feel they are close with those creatures, the urban ones don't. So traditional people also keep up an intense relation with tigers. A supernatural creature they believe in. They say marriage, as we have known so far, marriage is a kind of a holy relation between humans, and then they also use this word to express or to show the relationship between human and also the tiger spirit. So I think they consider that the relation between them is very precious because it is also established based on love, based on compassion. So this is the example from the novel. According to Mamua, the village storyteller, many men in the hamlet had a tigress of his own. Some married one, while others inherited a tigress passed down through generation. Okay. And there's also heroism. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that the host disabled the share screen. Okay. So traditional people put the tigers owners in a high position because they are strong and proven to have been protecting society from invaders, while urban ones don't. Okay, and then okay. However, the existence of Magyu in an urban society represent resistance to urbanization, which erodes local identity time to time. So one of characteristics of urban society is that people living there lack of the sense of belongingness to something, including the cultural identity they actually possess. So this is different from the traditional society because traditional people hold their beliefs strongly because they really believe in that. Okay, and then Matgyo is the symbol of the true Sundanese people facing a new world. Okay, I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Abu, for the enlightening presentation of like myth. Yeah, so I know that Indonesian has a lot of myth. So now you're trying to raise the power relation in Sudanese myth, yeah, reflected in Kurniawan's Mentire. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think all presenters have finished presenting their papers in this parallel session too. Now it's time for us to have a Q&A session. First of all, thank you for attentively listening to the presentation. I didn't find any um, questions here in the chat box. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just start. So for asking questions, you can use the feature on your menu. You can have a raise hand. Okay, let's start. Want to have a question? Hello, can you hear my voice? Yes. Miss Maritama, you want to ask a question?
No, ma'am. I'm just test my microphone.
Okay, so want to ask a question here? I think we have quite a lot of participants here. Would you please use the raise hand buttons? Okay, Miss Ervina, maybe you have a question? Hello, Miss Ervina. Okay, well, I think there is no questions here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is the end of, unfortunately for the Mr. Abu and Miss Maritama, you have no question. So unfortunately, you have no question. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think that is the end of the PAL session two. Okay, and do not leave the room. Yeah, because we're gonna continue at 10 on the PAL session three. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please stay in this room. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can have a break right now, and you're required to come back at 10 to have the file session 3. Thank you. everyone? Is my voice clear? Hello? Hello, is everyone on video? Is my voice clear enough? Hello? Check.
Suaranya belum terdengar ya?
Ya, jelas, sudah jelas, sudah jelas.
Oh, kalau Pak Rifki kedengeran, Pak Rifki terdengar.
Ya, saya terdengar dengan jelas.
Bu Ria, suaranya belum terdengar ya? Suaranya belum terdengar, Bu.
Halo?
Nah, itu better lah.
Ya.
Mau perkenalan sekarang?
Pak Iwan bagaimana, Bu?
Pak Iwan tuh
Suaranya Bu Ria belum terlalu terdengar.
Yang teman-temannya?
Ya, kurang keras, kurang kencang dikit.
tes.
Nah, itu oke.
Okay. Can we just start right now? I'm going to check whether all speakers already in a room or not. Bapak Muhdoyin. Halo? Fadilah Sandi?
Yes.
Okay. And then Ervina Juli Aryani.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Putri Anindya Septiana. Putri Anindya Septiana. Is Putri here already or not? We are going to start the session in a few minutes. Hello? Bapak Muhdoyin, are you ready? I think Pak Muhdoyin is not in this room right now. So, okay, I'm going to start in a few minutes. We are waiting for another presenter to come in. Okay, let's begin the parallel session 3. We are going to have 4 presenters in this room. Actually, the first one is Pak Muhdoyin, and the second one is Ibu Fadilah Sandi, and also Irfan Rifai, and then the next is Ibu Ertina Juli and Ibu Sri Wahyuni.
And the last one will be Putri Anindya Sofiani. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's invite the first presenter. As Bapak Muhyiddin is, I think, not ready yet, so I'm going to call another presenter. The next presenter is Ibu Fadila Sandi and also Bapak Irfan Rifai. Ibu Fadila Sandi will present a paper entitled Intergroup Friendship and Cosmopolitanism Portrayed in a Children and Young Adult Literature, Jason Reynolds Ghost. Ibu Sandi, please, chance is yours. Thank you.
Can I share the screen right now?
Sure, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So everybody, I hope that everybody can see the screen that I'm sharing now. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, good morning. It is a pleasure to be back in my school where I was from in UNES. I'm so happy to meet all the lecturers and all my friends who are in charge of this great seminar. Thank you very much for the chance given to me. So I and my team, Pak Irfan, we're trying to do an analysis, a little analysis on children's and young adult literature, and our framework of this analysis is intergroup friendship and cosmopolitanism. And why I choose this framework, then I'll show you after this. And the children and young adult literature that we choose is Jason Reynolds' Ghost. It is a National Book Award in America, and the theme of the story is appropriate for both children and young adult. So let's get started. So the idea of children's and young adult literature term is actually similar to the juvenile literature, which is a literature that is intended for both children and young adult, or you can say teenagers. And type of literature that belongs to this children's and young adult literature can be poetry, short stories, novels, picture books, and chapter books. And the one that I shared today is novel. And then it is usually read by children and teenagers, and it has a low reading skill or low reading level, sorry. So the choice of words, vocabulary is easy to read, and it is fun. And it is focusing on age appropriate subjects. So the theme is for the children and young adult, and also the choice of words it is for children and young adults. So there's no bad words, things like that coming in this novel, and there's no sexism in this novel as well. And also the interesting part of children's and young adult literature, usually adult also wants to read this type of novel because maybe for some reason they want to know literature that is intended for their children, and for some reason maybe they want just to read easy book, you know what, and then so they usually tend to choose children's and young adult literature. So the interesting part of this type of literature is that not only a teenager who read this type of literature, but also adults. And it is different from dystopian literature. Dystopian literature is kind of literature that is include not only real setting, but also fantasy setting. But for the children's and young adult literature, usually the setting of the novel is in a real world. So why I want to study this children's and young adult literature in a lens of cosmopolitanism and intergroup friendship. So I uh, I I really think about my position as an educator, and then thinking about my future generation who is now a digital native and getting less social with real world. So I'm thinking about how can I help them? How could I help them to really aware with the diverse community, things like that? Because it is quite challenging for children who is going to live in a real world, that if they do not have any experience living in a diverse community, and they do not have any model of what is it, how to live in a diverse community. So you can imagine. So because Pika Smith also said that relationships in a real world that is experienced in a childhood moment are very beneficial to individual children's healthy social emotional development. So, and the development of the more equitable classroom and school and society also really help them to face the challenges when they are living in a diverse community. So there should be something that we do to give them awareness about how to live in a diverse community. And our role as a teacher or educator or parents, it plays an influential role employing cosmopolitanism to our kids as a way to invite them in engaging conversations about racism, about uh, religion, about diverse community, about different uh, gender, things like that. And then books, it is actually a media or a medium that can work as a not only as a window but also a mirror and also a sliding glass door. So we're going to look at that in this analysis, that how this book also can be a window, a mirror, and sliding glass door. So the objective of the study is quite really simple. That is, where we just want to analyze the inquiries of the key concepts from intergroup friendship and cosmopolitanism that is portrayed in Jason Reynolds' novel Ghost. And our research questions, there are four. First is, how is intergroup friendship portrayed, and what factors that develop that intergroup friendship? And then how is the self-acceptance development of the protagonist portrayed? Because it is very interesting to see how the main character in this novel is going up and down, finding his own identity. And then how are the adult agencies depicted in this book that help to develop safe and supportive community? And I've been in a quite a lot of research about intergroup friendship and cosmopolitanism, and I found out that this key concept of intergroup friendship from Pika Smith's 2009 is very suitable with my analysis. So the key concepts that is going to deconstruct in this novel is, first, the interaction across different races or ethnicities within group that is happening in this novel, and then how the intergroup friendship and also the adults role really help the main character to have a healthy social emotional development, and then how the society and the new community really give the equitable classroom, schools, and society, and how the intimate bonds are going on in this novel. So although they are having what is it, a new community, doesn't mean that they have to, what is it, dress the same way, do the same way, and then think the same way. But the way they learn and expand multiple ways of understanding and do things different, that they value each other, that is that should be celebrated in intergroup friendship. And the next one is the key concept of cosmopolitanism, of course. I saw some related research about key concept of cosmopolitanism, and find out several interesting key concepts that is also suitable for the analysis. Is first the self-acceptance as a way to value and understand others' identities. So self-acceptance is not just about us understand our own attitude, our own value, our own identity, but it is also a way to value and understand other identities too. That is what it means. And then how the cosmopolitanism lens preserve its uniqueness of community culture, and it also lead toward the direction of global local relation, and also how we as adults also provide or encourage a sense of hospitality to any different race or background or religion in a group. So these are our phases of how we do critical content analysis as a research methodology that is also done by Johnson, Mathis, and Shaw 2016. So we found that we first came up with our background, we position ourselves in a context of educator, and then thinking about how to help our children to face diverse communities. So we came up with research questions, what things that really meaningful to our children, and what things that is to be encouraged to our children regarding how they will face diverse community in the future. And also we go to various selection of texts. Actually, there are not only this book who portrayed cosmopolitanism and intergroup friendship, but there are a lot of books. There are a lot of children and young adult literature that we also read, and we just focus on this novel because this is the complex, the most complex one. And at first we do immersion as a reader, so we just have fun with the reading. We just read for pleasure, to get to know about the story and to be in the story world. And after that, because we know that we are going to analyze this book and this book is suitable for our analysis, so we go to some theories and do another immersion. But for this time, we do immersion as a researcher. And then, so after we read again, and then we go to the reading to related research studies to find what theoretical framework that actually can go with the analysis. So we find out the intergroup friendship and also cosmopolitanism that will mutual each other in order to really give good example and lens for our children in facing diverse community. And we also fortunately find the key concepts of both of them, and then we do close reading, and then we look at the reading really closely, and then at the same time we also back and forth revisit the theory and the text, and also write some theoretical notes on the analysis. So that's our research methodology doing with the critical content analysis of this novel. So our result is first about the intergroup friendship development. So at the beginning, so this one is the beginning of the main character intergroup friendship experience. So at the beginning, at school and his family life, Ghost or Castle, as the main character, has a really broken home family and getting humiliated by friends at school and social. And so that one really forced him to run away from their friends and family. So he really wants to run away from the community. So the friends and family forced him to, or make him to go or run away from the community. But when he found the defender team, it is where he found his own identity. So his friendship and also his friendship really helped him, are really very supportive to what is it, to find his identity and his like in running. So the running is not just a negative thing for him anymore. You know what, like the running is not just running away from something, but it is running toward a goal. So the friendship supports the idea, the new hobby or the new identity that the main character has, which it is running. And the new hobby that is as the new identity of their character uh, support them to face the goal. And then the goal in here also has a support from the friendship. So how in this new community with the Devander theme, the main character is very having a mutual relationship one another, and at the same time he can find his own willingness in running, and he found his skill in running and use that as a way to catch his goal. And that goals also supported by his friends, and that goals also one of his uh, uh, reason to be in a intergroup friendship. And then another result is about the self-acceptance development. So at the first time, at the beginning, he had a very low self-acceptance because the adult's role at that time was zero or negative. As I said before, that the family life is he was coming from broken home family and then low socioeconomic status family, and it made him really uh, having a low self-acceptance, feeling inferiority, and he didn't want to be in a community because he was afraid of being humiliated, and he was afraid of negative prejudice that he always got from the social life. And when the defender team becomes his new community, and there is a diverse races and socioeconomic status, what happened to him? So he actually want to raise his self-acceptance, but what he did was wrong at that time. So he kind of felt insecure and wobble at that time. How should I, what should I do to fit in this new community which has a lot of different races and socioeconomic status? Why was I so different? And he looked at himself and see how different he was, and then that appearance, and then the clothing of himself, and then what he saw in himself was giving him a very low acceptance of himself, and he wanted to fit in with the community. So he did a stealing. You know, he stole a soccer shoes, and then because he wanted to look like his community, and then at that time he lost or hide his true self. And what was the adult's role at that time? So the adult
2 minutes left.
give a very positive support by giving him support, and at the same time giving him punishment to make him realize about his own self, to learn how to accept himself and to value others. And that's how he can deal with the new community. And another result is factors of positive self-development. So factors that help Castle get a positive self-development is self-acceptance, support system from friends and coach in defender team, and also trust from coach and his friend. And here are the
2 minutes
adults
left,
role.
Ibu.
Okay, and then the adults really help him to help and create and support him to get equality and equity in a new community. And at the end, we can see that this type of novel can be a mirror for teenagers that can picture themselves as one of the characters in the book, and also it can be a window for teenagers to learn from the storyline and values. And not only that, can be also a sliding glass door that teenager can do to be in the story world by imagining themselves as a character or associating the story world with the real world. And the limitation of this study is that we only look at one source of children's and young adult literature, and we hope that we can do more about this critical content analysis. And well, I think that's all. Sorry for the longer time that I took for this presentation, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Sandy, for giving us an enlightening and also wonderful presentation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the second presenter of this panel session, that is Bapak Muhammad Rifki. He is going to present the student responses to the gift of amazing. Pak Rifki, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you please the first presenter to stop the share sharing?
Yeah, Bu Fadlan is going to start.
Yeah, I would like to share my screen, but I cannot. I can't. Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much for the time given to me. I'm Muhammad Rifki, a student in a doctorate students in PPS, UNES. I'm here collaborating with my supervisors, Mr. Professor Januarius Mugianto, Ibu Dr. Sri Wuli Fitriati, and Professor Warsono. Today, I'd like to present my paper entitled Students' Responses to the Gift of the Maggie. Yeah, this is actually a preliminary research before I conducted my dissertation research. Well, yeah, teaching English literature in EFL context. This is the teaching of literature. The teaching of literature in EFL context, and I conducted this research in my university, Dian Nuswantoro University. The students' interest and motivation in learning English. Well, sometimes we find our students not motivated, are not motivated in learning English. But sometimes they also perceive that reading a fictional word is not worth, it's not useful. But probably this is something that is demotivate the students. But we as teachers should explore the possibilities in the way we teach and in exploring technique, exploring the theories taken from scholars in EFL or in from the theories in literary studies. So there are many studies, there are many theories, opinion or idea that we can use. In this research, I explore the possibilities in using the reader response theory. And as we know that the teaching of English using the literature has undergone the ups and downs. It means that many scholars believe that using literary texts worth doing, or it is very useful using the literary works, but some also believe that it is not so Yeah, but it is, I think it is very challenging. Both if we are in the between these two belief of the scholars. Yeah, I'd like in this paper, I'd like to answer the questions, the research question: how do the students respond to the short story? Yeah, the gift of the Maggie. Yeah, this is my interest also, actually. The use of literary text, the use of literature in EFL, or in English as a foreign language teaching. So the basis, the main basis, or the core basis of this theory is the theory of response, reader response. Some scholars believe that reader response is not the kind of theory, but it is a kind of reading process. Yeah. Reader response emphasize on the roles of the reader, and the belief that a text does not have meaning before it is read by the reader. So it is the reader who create the meaning. Yeah. It is the reader who create the meaning. The meaning created by the reader is based on their own experience. Whether we can say we say experience in the very broad meaning. The experience, yeah, that really experienced by the reader, and also the experience got from reading books. Well, I think I do not emphasize on the review of literature, because I'd like to emphasize on the finding later to to enable us to discuss. Okay, this is the questions. The questions based on the reader response approach. Yeah, that we can ask during using literary texts, such as what struck you about the story, what kinds of did you notice, and so on. So we can develop this. Yeah, we can develop these questions. Yeah, this kind of open question can enable students to explore the text, and also to apply and to use their own experience and their own belief in reading, and also later in the response of the literature. Okay, now I go to findings directly from the questions. I can show you the question. The question and answer here. There are several questions. Yeah, the 4 questions here, and each questions here I have classified the answer from the students, and there are the classifications falls into 6 categories here. When I ask students, there are 23 participants here, students as a participants of the research, and the answer for each for question number 1 can be classified into 6 categories here. So what struck you about the story? They answer in 6 ways here. Yeah, Dela's characters. The story was very touching. The poor condition, and so on here. And how do they respond to the questions number 2? What kinds of things do you notice? Yeah. Yeah, from the short story, they can see, based on the students' answer here, they can see that there is a devotion, or true love, sacrifice, poorness, lower class, kind-hearted persons. And this, the question number 3 and number 4, and also the answer. Yeah. And now I show you the next response. The next response, when I ask the students to write a response, to write a letter, yeah, to a beloved person. Yeah, it can be husband or wife, or probably someone who love like father and mother and so on. While in response 1, we can see, yeah, we can see here it is still related very closely to the original text. Yeah, original text, the gift of the Maggie. It is about the love, yeah, the true love between husband and wife. And also we can still see here the same, relatively the same, yeah. I mean, it is closely related, still closely related. It is the love between husband and wife, and the context is Christmas. And also in number 3, yeah, number 3 is still the context, the setting is still the same. But what can I found in the in response 4, yeah, in response students response number 4, yeah, this the students, yeah, the students change the context. Yeah, the context is not the Christmas context anymore, but the context here is he changed the context into Mother's Day. Yeah, he expressed his love, yeah, to his mother. Yeah, and how his mother struggle in life. And yeah, for the summary for the gift of the Maggie, it is about the poor couple of husband and wife who wanted to express their affection and attention by giving present to each other in the Christmas setting. Yeah, but in fact, they have little money and they can't afford the presents. Instead, they sell the precious belonging to buy the present. Yeah, this is the original story summary. Well, let us discuss what we find, what I find. In related to dealing with the response questions, the students' responses deal with the issues of devotion, true love, sacrifice, poorness, lower class society, and kind-hearted persons. So what can we see here? That they can see and think about various things after interacting with the text. So we can say that they involve, yeah, they intensively involve to the text. And then related to imaginative creation, where the text of the students is create the letter to someone who they love much. Yeah, from response 1 to 3, yeah, for the examples of the examples of the students' response, or number 1 to 3, the topics are still quite consistent, yeah, with the story, with the original story, while in response 4, it is extremely different. Yeah, it is very different from what we find in the 3 previous students' response. Yeah, he changed the Christmas setting into Mother's Day setting, and then the family relationship from husband-wife relation to daughter and mother relationship. Okay, I come to the conclusion. We can conclude here that the students can interact and involve intensively with the text, yeah, during the observations of the process of the research or study. And then they can compose various different texts based on the original one. So sometimes we can beyond our expectation, yeah, the students can combine what they read, yeah, with their experience, and then relate them. And the recommendation here, my recommendation here is, in order to maintain the learner's interest, yeah, to keep the students' interest to the text reading, the literary text used in the learning process, the teacher should consider the text difficulty levels, because it is very important and very crucial. If we are wrong in choosing the levels, the difficulty levels of the text, it will the students will lose the interest in, and then it also will demotivate the students. Yeah, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much, Ibu Ria, Mbak Ria.
Thank you for presenting a preliminary risk for your first study. And you successful in the future party. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the next presenter, Ibu Betty Mawani and Ibu Tari Irma Tanzani. They are presenting promoting plan for instilling and internalizing Islamic values in EFL context. For Ibu Betty, please. Ibu Betty,
Okay, today I will present
Ibu Betari.
Tari. Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
ready to present. Thank you.
Okay, I will share screen first. Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my partner and I would like to present our paper entitled Promoting POEM for Instilling and Internalizing Islamic Values in EFL Context. This is a case study in Institut Agama Islam Negeri Salatiga. In this presentation, I would like to outline the presentation into 4 parts, including introduction, methodology, findings, and discussion, and conclusions. Okay, without any further ado, we go on to the introduction. Okay, as a process, teaching and learning do not only require exchange of materials, but also values. The aim of including values in EFL class is to train both students and teachers not only provisionally and academically, but also humanly, as they live in varied society with varied people. And at IAIN Salatiga, Islam influences many sectors in education, including language education. In educational context, Islamic values can be integrated in all lessons, not to mention English as foreign language, in order to preserve the values itself towards the classroom activities. It is in line with the Johnston 2003 that the essence of teaching foreign language lies in values. It means when the teacher teaches the students the material of foreign language, the values can be taught simultaneously. Here, the poem can be considered as a media to bridge the need of teaching values and teaching a foreign language in the class. Okay, the objective of this study first is to know the effectiveness of using poem in instilling and internalizing Islamic values, depict students' awareness of English language, and map out the challenges in learning process. And then the methodology. Here, a qualitative descriptive case study is used and applied for explaining the phenomenon in the study. Since the researcher examined poem produced by students in order to know how the students see the poem as a media to instill and internalize the Islamic values, I think the qualitative descriptive case study is appropriate to be applied in this study. The data were written as the main data resource. The data were from questionnaire done by the second semester students when they were joining Bahasa in these 2 subjects. In this study, 19 students were involved, and the questionnaire consists of 5 open-ended questions. And we also did some procedures, including collecting the data, reading, categorizing, and analyzing. The first type is collecting the data, the students were asked to answer 5 open-ended questions after several times to catch and understand what they mean by writing the sentence. And then after reading, we categorize it and analyze it into some, okay. We go on to findings and discussion. The first one is the effectiveness of using poem for instilling internalized Islamic values. First, when I told them that we will learn about poem, some students did not know what a poem that the teacher mean. So here, the result of the questionnaire that 12 students know poem, 5 do not know poem, and 2 do not answer the question. So in using this poem, this simple poem, they write down on the answer of the questionnaire that the poem give them the spirit, show their character, give hope, remember their pure priority, and tell how to have a big heart. And for the students' awareness of English knowledge, because in this class, we emphasize in how to write down a simple sentence through poem. So 13 students can write the simple sentence well, and the 6 students they write down incomplete sentence. So we go on to the challenges that I faced when I teach the poem for instilling and internalizing the Islamic values. Is the first one is teaching Islamic values, because as the definition of Islamic values is broad, it is quite challenging in saying what Islamic values should be taught to the students. Therefore, I, as a teacher, just chose positivity in seeing herself or himself as the main value to be taught. And the second one is the time allotment. Since I only teach the class once in a week, the time allotment becomes one challenge. Sharifi and Hasaska in 2011 implied that whatever changes take place in education, it is quite acceptable to spend time. Therefore, I only give my students the guidance about the poem, about the simple sentence, so they can follow it without getting any stress. And based on the findings and the discussion, it can be concluded that a poem, a simple poem, can be an alternative way in instilling Islamic values, and a poem can be an alternative way in internalizing English language. And this is the references. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you. Okay, come back to moderator.
Presenting the paper during this time in teaching Islamic school in Salatiga. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to confirm the last presenter, Ibu Zulianti and Bapak Mukdalin. Are they here? Bapak Ibu, Ibu Zulianti and Bapak Mukdalin. I would like to confirm. I think they are not in this room. So, for the participants, if you have any questions for the presenters in this panel session, please address your question. You still have some chance to have an answer and discussion session. No question from the floor? I think there is no question. Or do you have any question, everyone? Okay, Ibu Fadila Sandi. Ibu Batari, can you share points that you use in your study? A question from Ibu Fadila Sandi.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I will look for the poem first. May I share screen? May I share screen again?
It's just share it. Yeah, you can share it.
Okay. Okay, this one is the poem that I used in my class. I adapted from the BBC, and I just explained and give the structure for the students, and then they write it down by their own. Okay. Do I answer your question, Bu Fadila Sandi?
Oh yeah. So my question is, so you use that poem to what is it? And then your students are asked to what is it? Rearrange the poem or make the new poem or something like that. I'm just curious.
Okay. The first one I just share what is it? The structure. For example, I just wrote I am, and I told them to complete the sentence by using adjective one. So they look for what some adjective or an adjective that define them by himself or herself, like that.
Oh, I see. So it
Yeah.
should be something that has Islamic value, something like that, or not?
Yeah. The first one is beside they are taught the English language. They in other subject actually they also taught by the values of Islamic, because I taught in Fakultas Usuluddin Adab and Humaniora. So English just a tool for they can share for example, their knowledge in their study program to others in foreign language, something like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Betari.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Butari, and also thank you, Ibu Fadia, for the question. Is my voice clear, everyone? Hello?
I think your voice is not clear. Sorry.
Is it okay right now?
Oh
Hello?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ibu
The
Butari, and
microphone.
also
It is better.
for session. Now this is the end of the third parallel session. Everyone else wanted the presenter coming yet, so I'm going to close this third parallel session, and now we are opening the fourth parallel session. I would like to mention the presenters in the fourth parallel session. That is Ibu Artina Juli Aryani, Ibu Sri Wahyuni, Ibu Putri Anindya Sofiana, Ibu Fatimah Zahra, and Ibu Rasi Anissa. Are all presenters already in this room? In chat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is Ibu Artina.
Yes.
Okay. And Ibu Putri Anindya?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Ibu Fatimah Zahra? Okay. Ibu Rasi Anissa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, but in the all audiences, we are having the first presentation, and the first presentation will be delivered by Ibu Ervina and Ibu Dewi. They are going to present a paper entitled Critical Thinking Based Reading Comprehension Questions of Content Analysis. Ibu Ervina, please. You have 10 minutes to present your paper. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. I would like to ask a question. I had a trouble of connecting my laptop's audio, so I would like to do my presentation using my mobile phone. Is it okay, ma'am?
I think everything is use any device.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I couldn't hear the voice.
Yeah, it's okay. You can present your paper by using any device.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, ma'am.
let's go on.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, your voice is clear.
Yes, very
Okay.
clear.
Thank you. I would like to start my presentation. First of all, good morning. I am Ervina Juli Aryani, student of Universitas Negeri Semarang. Together with Mrs. Sri Wahyuni, would like to present a research entitled Critical Thinking Based Reading Comprehension Questions, a Content Analysis. In my presentation, I would like to present 5 major points. First, introduction. Second, theoretical review. Third, methodology. Fourth, findings and discussion. And the last, conclusions. First point, introduction. First point of introduction, background of study. So, the reason why I conducted this study falls under 3 major reasons. The first one is the demand of 21st century skills. Currently, the 21st century skills become the demand for people in general and also for students. In educational area, students are demanded to master the 21st century skills in all lessons, including English. However, in a context of English, students' mastery of 21st century skills, especially critical thinking, is still low. It is proven by the result of PISA test 2018, which exhibited that Indonesian students' critical thinking and reading skill scored lower than the average score of OECD. This shows that Indonesian students' critical thinking and reading skill is in need of improvement. In order to improve those capability, what needs to be developed is critical thinking based reading comprehension questions in an English textbook, since textbook become the major and biggest source of learning. In addition to that, reading comprehension questions could assist students in developing cognitive level and critical thinking. What does this mean? It means that the realization of critical thinking in reading comprehension questions could be the pathway to enhance the development of critical thinking in reading skill. Therefore, this research arises. In this research, the main research question is, how is critical thinking reflected in reading comprehension questions found in English textbook for grade 12 published by the Ministry of Education and Culture? Now let's go on to the next part, which is theoretical review. In this theoretical review, I would like to explain 3 points. The first one is critical thinking. So critical thinking is defined as an ability which is beyond memorization. It includes the skills of analyzing, evaluating, creating, and making decision. Second, reading comprehension question. It is a question that follows a passage that is aimed to guide students' comprehension or readers' comprehension toward the given passage. Third of all, Numrich sequence. The Numrich sequence itself is the framework that I use to analyze the reading comprehension questions, and it is the framework that comprises 3 major perspectives and 7 task types, namely observing, identifying assumption, understanding and organizing, interpreting, inquiring further, analyzing and evaluating, and the last, making decision. This sequence is used as the framework to assess critical thinking. Third, methodology. So this study adopts descriptive qualitative content analysis, since the study primarily analyzed the content of textbook qualitatively, and in the end, the researcher described the result of the analysis. The object of the study is the reading comprehension questions found in English textbook entitled Bahasa Inggris untuk SMA, MA, SMK, MAK kelas 12, edisi revisi 2017, published by the Ministry of Education and Culture. In this term, there are 117 reading comprehension questions which are under analysis. Third, instrument of the research. So the instrument of the research is the task types of Numrich sequence, and the questions, or in this case, the reading comprehension questions, are categorized as the critical thinking based questions as the questions fulfill the parameter of the inquiring further tasks, analyzing and evaluating tasks, and making decision tasks. In order to collect the data, the researcher did documentation, and the data analysis method followed the data analysis framework offered by Miles and Huberman 1994, which finally the researcher did classifying and sorting data. In this case, the researcher classify and sort which questions are relevant and which questions are irrelevant. And the researcher put away the irrelevant questions. Second one, after that, the researcher identify and categorize the questions based on the task types of Numrich sequence, and finally display the result in a form of table and description. And last, the researcher generate the conclusion referring to the table, and the conclusion are delivered in a form of description. And the last is triangulation. This research is triangulated using triangulation by theories. So the researcher compared the result of this present research to the previous related research. That's all the methodology. Now let's move to the 4th point of this presentation, which is findings and discussion. First, findings. This table exhibited the findings of the critical thinking analysis on the reading comprehension questions. We can see that observing-based reading comprehension questions cannot be found, and there are 3.41% of identifying assumptions-based questions, 68.37% of understanding and organizing based question, 18.8% of interpreting based questions. And there is no inquiring further based reading comprehension questions. And then there are 6.83% of analyzing and evaluating based questions, and the last 2.56% of the making decision based questions. From this table, we may conclude three major points.
Ibu Ervina, we don't see any presentation in our screen.
Baik, okay, I'm sorry for the trouble. Is the slide can be clearly
now it's visible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'm going to continue my presentation. From the table, we can conclude three major points. The first one, from the 7 task types, not all the types are realized in reading comprehension questions. Second, understanding and organizing become the most emphasized task types in reading comprehension questions. This task types is good to develop students' comprehension toward the content of the text. However, this task itself is not enough to pursue critical thinking in reading skill. Therefore, of course, students need more questions implying critical thinking. Third of all, reading comprehension questions which realize critical thinking task types like analyzing and evaluating and then making decision are found, however, not in great number. It shows that yes, critical thinking is realized in reading comprehension questions, but the realization is in need of improvement. Next is discussion. So the reading comprehension questions under analysis highly focus on a text. The task of understanding and organizing taps the questions. And this findings is in line with a research by Permatasari 2012 that stated that most of the reading comprehension questions highlight the task of understanding and organizing, which focuses on the explicit information in a text. In comparison to Beaumont regarding the critical thinking, this research seems to less likely promote critical thinking through the reading comprehension questions.
You have 1 minute more. Thank you.
Okay. Now let's conclude this presentation. From this research and this presentation, we may draw that yes, critical thinking is realized in reading comprehension questions. However, the realization in reading comprehension questions, especially in the textbook under analysis, needs to be increased. So I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention and good morning.
Thank you so much, Ibu Ervina, for presenting a really wonderful and also interesting topic. Now I'm going to invite the next presenter, that is Ibu Putri Anindya Sofiana. Ibu Putri?
Yes.
Yeah, Ibu Putri is going to deliver a paper entitled Messages in Pharrell Williams' Speech at New York University's 185 commencement ceremony in 2017. Ibu Putri, please.
Yes, thank
2
you.
minutes to present. Thank you.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Is it clear, ma'am?
Yes, it's really clear.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Putri Anindya Sofiana, and today I'm going to be talking about speech act, especially illocutionary act, and my research entitled Messages in Pharrell Williams' Speech at New York University's 185th Commencement Ceremony 2017. And I have 4 sections. The first one is introduction, methodology, findings and discussion, and conclusion. So let's jump to the first section. Okay, so I'm going to put forward to you today the case why speech act is essential to learn in the process of language learning. Because one important area of pragmatic is speech act, which are communicative act that convey an intended meaning, language function. And the speech act theory put the stress on the use of language. As language is the act of doing something, so speech act analyze how someone express like thanking, urging, and asserting. And the important of studying speech act is to understand what message that discovered in every utterance. So concerning with the use of speech act for human activities, understanding the speaker's intention is essential to capture the meaning. And so in relation to this fact, the utterance which produced by Pharrell Williams is not merely to say something ordinary. He implies some action behind his utterance. So that's why I intentionally select Pharrell Williams' speech at the NYU commencement ceremony. And his speech covered about education and gender equality. So there are two reasons in case of selecting Pharrell Williams' speech. The first one is Pharrell Williams' speech seems to be considered as an inspirational speech. And another reason is that Pharrell Williams has an extraordinary skills as a great speaker, not only by his utterance or the way he performs the speech, but the intended meaning behind his utterance. And then I have two research problems here. The first problem is what types of illocutionary acts in Pharrell Williams' speech at New York University. And the second problem is illocutionary acts. How is the use of illocutionary acts in the speech? And this is the theoretical framework. So I limit my study on analyzing the speech act on illocutionary act based on George Yule's classification. They are representative, directives, expressive, commissive, and declaration. And then I implement it to the Pharrell Williams speech. And the next section is methodology. So this study used the qualitative method because the data are displayed in the form of words. And according to Creswell 2014, qualitative research depends on how the researcher analyzes the data, since the data does not focus on numbers, but the depth of the researcher's knowledge toward the study which is being analyzed. And my object of the study, of course, Pharrell Williams' speech, and I focused on using illocutionary act in the speech based on George Yule's classification theory, like I mentioned before. They are representative, directive, commissive, expressive, and declaration acts. And the next is the procedures of collecting and analyzing data. So first step, I watched the speech video several times and I read the script carefully in order to catch the entire content. And then after watching the video, I split the speech text into some parts to make it easy in classifying the data. And then I give quotes for every sentences that I already split into some parts. I gave D for datum and L for line. After that, the utterances are classified into the 5 classification. They are representative, directive, expressive, commissive, and declaration. And then I analyze the data deeply based on each type to make a clear explanation. And then last, I draw the conclusion for the use of the illocutionary acts. And then the next section is findings and discussions. So I found the total data is 49 data, which consist of 27 of representative act, 11 data of expressive act, and 11 data of directive act. I did not find any commissive and declaration data in Farrell-Williams speech. And then you can see the percentage of the illocutionary act that found in the speech. There is 54% for representatives and 33% for directive and 23% for expressive. So here is the examples of each types that I found in Farrell-Williams speech. The first types is representative. So from the findings that I have analyzed, the most used types of illocutionary act is representative act. And the first sample is, I like to say that I am forever a student, and it's people like this that I'll forever grateful to learn from data 7 line 13 to 14. So Farrell-Williams here calling himself as a forever a student, which means that he's just like every other graduate in the crowd. And he continued by asserting that he would never stop learning, especially from the honorary recipients who he was standing with. So it means that he would never stop being a student, which means that he would never stop learning something important, especially from the great people. And for the second types is directives. There is one sample. He said, talk about your accomplishments. It's very important. Talk about your accomplishments. So here Farrell-Williams strongly urges the people or the graduates, the young generation, to talk about their accomplishments, because it can pursue others with high quality work, which hopefully can have a positive impact. And he is trying to highlight that if no one hears about our great work that we have done, people may underestimate us, or people may assume that we are not doing anything significant. So that's why talk about our accomplishments is necessary. And the third types is expressive. In this day and age, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that it's people like this who serve humanity that make our world go around. And most social media and media itself would lead you to believe otherwise. And there's also expressive act verb thank. He said, and I want to thank all of you for this humbling experience today. This is major, it's heavy. So for the verb serve, he expressed his sadness toward the situation that happening, because the great people who actually done to change the world, to make the world be better, doesn't really got worth appreciation. But sometimes media just post less appreciation, so it makes Farrell-Williams feeling so sad about that fact. And expressive verb thank, he expressed his gratitude toward the NYU participants for giving him a chance to deliver a speech in front of a group of people. And then here is the conclusion. So after analyzing the Farrell-Williams speech, there are several conclusions that can be drawn. For the first is, of course, the most used types of illocutionary act, representative act with 27 data or 54%. So he used a lot of representative act, verb tell and asserts. Of course, he used the verb act tell to tell the audience about the great story, about the information to start his speech. And then he is continued by asserting to give a strong call to action that every young generation needs to serving humanity starts by empowering women. And then the second types, directive act with 11 data or 23% data, William mostly used the verb urge to embrace education and close the gender gap. he is trying to highlight, he strongly urges the graduates to always talk about their accomplishment, like I was mentioned before, because as in the past, the previous generation just works only behind the scenes. So he is trying to say that the young generation need to stop being an anonymous activist. That's why he urges the young generation to always talk about their accomplishment, be inspired, and always to embrace education. And then the last one is expressive act with 11 data as well, and 23%. William uses expressive act sorrow to express his sadness toward the less appreciation for the great people who already changed the world to make a better future. And then he also uses a lot of expressive thank because he is given a chance to receive an honorary as a Doctor of Fine Arts degree at NYU. And then also he wants to thank all of the NYU participants for giving him a chance to be on the stage delivering a speech. And I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Putri Anindya, for presenting the paper. Now, I'm calling the next presenter, Ibu Fatimatu Zahro, and she's going to deliver a paper entitled Thematic Structure and Thematic Progression Analysis of Indonesian Education Advertorial, published in the Jakarta Post 2018 edition. Ibu Fatimatu Zahro, please. You can present now, and you have 10 minutes to present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the time. Wait. Can you see the PPT? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's still on progress, I guess. Starting. Yeah, already. It's clear. You can begin the presentation now.
Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, thank you for the time that given to me. My name is Fatima Zuhra. I'm a student of English department. So here I'm going to talk about the thematic structure and thematic progression analysis of Indonesian education advertorial published in the Jakarta Post 2018 editions. So here's the contents. Wait. So the study attempts to investigate the choice of theme and thematic progressions. Okay. Okay, entitled School Zoning System Benefits Benefits Students, Parents, and School. The study is conducted since there are still limited researchers that conduct this topic, in which analyze the thematic structure and thematic development in promotional genre, such as advertorial pertaining in education field. As we know, the study about thematic structure has been widely conducted in many fields, and this may be due to its crucial contribution to the flow and focus of information in a text. And the distribution of theme in the whole text plays an inevitable role in a way given a text is to be organized, particularly the circulation and the distribution of a theme and rhyme patterns to make the general process of text productions. And while thematic progressions moves a text forward and using which the theme rhyme of single tokens of clauses are linked to those of neighboring ones and finally to those of the whole text. Henceforth, the investigating the various type of thematic progressions help us understand how a text is organized and in what manner the ideas are developed. So here there are some studies that focusing on examining the role of thematic progression in academic writing system, translation text, textbook, editorial, news item, and opinion sections. So what is advertorial? Advertorial is a name that created by blending the initial part of advertisement and final part of the editorial. So as the name indicates, an advertorial tends to intrinsically act as an advertisement. And the advertising media that has been widespread in various fields, not only used for the marketing of product and service, but also on the non-commercial institution uh, like education. Hence, this study is focusing on theme and thematic progressions in advertorial, particularly the education advertorial derived from Indonesian local English language newspaper, since this paper aims to fill the unexplored gap from the related previous studies. So what are my research objectives? There are two. The first one is to find out the common themes that found in a education advertorial, and the second one is to find out the types of thematic progression used in this advertorial. Many scholars have discussed thematic structure and thematic progression on advertisement and editorial, such as Emmeline, that according to Emmeline 2014, the advertorials applied a high accuracy of constant theme patterns and linear theme patterns, with a slightly higher occurrence of constant theme patterns. And he examined Malaysian education advertorial. And the next is there is Apurba 2014. He conducted a research entitled Thematic Realizations of Car Advertisement in a Kompas newspaper, and he discovered that the advertisement applied a high occurrence of constant pattern. While in Sujatna 2018, he conducted a comparative research between higher education advertorial in Bahasa Indonesia and English, and he found that zigzag theme pattern is the dominant pattern in Bahasa Indonesia advertorial, while the theme reiteration pattern is the dominant pattern in English advertorial. So, what is theme system? The theme is an element that serves as a starting point for a message and function as a participant, circumstance, or the process. There are three types of theme according to Halliday 2014. The first one is there is topical, and then interpersonal theme, and then textual theme. And what about the thematic progression? Thematic progression is a way of creating a theme sequence on each clause. Therefore, the text can be effective and cohesive. And according to Higgins 2004, there are three types of progression of thematic progressions. The first one is constant pattern, and then zigzag pattern, and then multiple ring pattern. And this is the theoretical framework that I use. The first one is starting from the theme system, and then I divide it into two. There is a thematic structure, and there are thematic structure and thematic progressions. And I use the theory from the Halliday 2014 for analyzing the thematic structure, and I use the theory from Higgins 2004 for analyzing the thematic progression. So here's the research design. I use descriptive qualitative, and for the object analysis, the advertorial is taken from the Jakarta Post 2018 edition entitled School Zoning System Benefits Students, Parents, and School. How I collect the data is, the first one is I choose the data that has been published in the Jakarta Post, and after that I read the data carefully and breaking up the text into clauses to make them easy to be identified clause by clause. And then I start to analyze them using the theory offered by Halliday and Higgins. And the next is I start to analyze the data by identifying the clauses which representing the textual metafunction parts, and then second is I number the text into clauses and categorize them, and then I examine the thematic structure analysis using holidays, and I examine the thematic progression using agents.
You have 3 minutes
Okay,
more.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump to the findings and discussion. Here's the education editorial. Okay, I will start to discuss about the first questions in this paper. The first one is to know the thematic structure that is found in a education editorial. So from the table, we can see that there are only two types of theme that applied in the education editorial. That is topical and textual themes, and there's no interpersonal theme found in this education editorial. And while the topical themes dominate the occupation of themes with 54 occurrences. And from the table, we can see that the writers tends to use simple theme than the other pattern. So here's the example of thematic structure analysis. Okay, we go to the next questions of this paper. That is to know the thematic progression that found in Indonesian education editorial. And based on the table, we can see that the writer mostly used the zigzag or linear theme pattern with 14 occurrences. This is ensured by the multiple rim pattern with 9 occurrences. Conversely, the thematic progression pattern, which is least applied in the editorial, is the theme reiteration pattern with only 3 occurrences. This is the example of the thematic progression analysis. Number one is the what is it? Is the zigzag theme pattern, and then the second one is the example of the multiple rim pattern, and the last is the theme reiteration pattern. So here's the conclusion. In this paper, the most dominant theme applied in this education editorial is unmarked topical theme with 24 occurrences. This is followed by textual theme, which is mostly used in the form of conjunctions with 17 occurrences, while the last type of theme found in this editorial is marked topical theme with 12 occurrences, and there's no interpersonal theme found in this editorial. And based on the findings, the writer also employs all of the thematic progression patterns. However, the writer tends to use linear or zigzag theme pattern than the other elements, such as multiple rim patterns and theme reiteration patterns. However, the high occurrence of the zigzag theme pattern as the most basic progression pattern has provided a cohesion that makes the reader easily follow the development of the text. And so this is the suggestions. The first one is for the English practitioner. By mastering the knowledge of textual meaning examination, it will be very helpful for them to raise students' awareness to pay attention to the use of language to realize meaning in such a context. And for the students, by mastering the textual meaning, will help them to deliver their message on communication well, both in written and spoken. And by being aware of language choice, help the students to be aware of how they should organize their choice of words. And for the next researchers, research on editorials involving other industries such as the food and hotel industry are also advised to examine whether the current findings extend to these areas or are limited to the education industry. So I think that's all of my presentation. Thank you for the attention. The time. I'll be back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Ibu Fatimah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the presentation session. Now we are having a question and answer session. For the audiences who have any question for the presenters, you may raise your hand, maybe by using a raise hand feature on your Zoom to ask question for the presenter. Is there any question from the floor? Let's see if there is a question from the audience. There is no question in the chat room? Okay. So audiences, do you have any question for the presenters? If not, then we can go to the main session. I'm waiting for a few minutes. If you want to ask question, just ask question to the presenter. I think there is no question for this session. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this seminar. Now you can leave the breakout room to join the main session, as we will have a plenary speaker presentation on the after having a lunch break at 1 p.m. So thank you so much everyone for presenting really wonderful opinion and also really interesting topic for today's presentation. I really am sorry for having a trouble with the devices previously. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now you can move to the main session by clicking the leave breakout room, and you will join the main session. Thank you so much, everyone.